Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. Today we talk about a fanfiction called Harpy Hair, Where Have You Buried All Your Children? Details about this fanfiction will be in the description below. Despite how short this fanfiction is, it's so unfortunate. I love this because this is basically about Jason like moving on, and I mean from it, really moving on from everything, right? And not him being forced to, or he's choosing this, right? He's choosing to do this. He's choosing his I was supposed to say family, but they're all his family, his wife and his kids over uh his Bruce and the others, right? Because he loves them, he loves all of them. But when it comes down to it, he's going to choose his wife and his kids, right? And he was sucked into this thing. Didn't even involve him at first, and then he was kidnapped. I mean, I really do mean that. He didn't know, he wasn't a part of this. And but one thing led to another. Dan had kidnapped him, and he basically told by clockwork, "Hey, you're gonna be Jazz's familiar." Surprise! Like, what? And obviously, at first he fought it. He's like, "No," because who would accept that? But then it was too like, it was alluring. Like the idea of no more crime, no more fight, none of this. All you have to do is basically act as a knight for Jazz and the rest of them, and that's it. That's your only job, is to protect them, right? Because one thing led to another, something happened. We're not giving too much details, but we can make it up on our own. But Jazz is left alone with Ellie. I was supposed to say Danny, but Ellie, right? She's a baby, so I guess it's technically fitting for her age because clone. And then DH, Danny, Sam, and Tucker. And then Dan is a teenager, so I guess technically he's also, because he wasn't a adult. Yes, maybe he's a teenager, and basically, and his only job is to protect them. And so slowly, it kind of and taking care of the kids and everything, it grew on him, and one thing led to another, and he ended up falling for Jazz. Of course they did, right? And so to the point where he's choosing to leave Red Hood and Crime Alley, everything behind. He has things set up, right? So Crime Alley's taken care of, but he's choosing to step back from it permanently and just leave it all behind. They end up, and especially since he doesn't want them entangled in anything of his messed up family, because he's painfully aware of how they are, and how this is beyond, to normal people, this is they can't handle this, right? So they're not completely normal people, still it's they don't need to be put through this. So he doesn't want this, but he doesn't want this to be it for them, for it to consume them like it did, fighting crime and doing the never ending fight. And he was tired of fighting, and he doesn't want that to consume his kids. He wants that as far away from them as possible, right? He doesn't want it to be their life like it did with him, and Dick and Damien, Tim, the rest of his siblings, right? He doesn't want that to be their life, just a constant, never-ending fight. So they move out of Crime Alley. They end up in Kansas, practically neighbors to Clark's uh, parents, because Clark owed them a favor. But not that it would have really, so they disappeared off of Labatt's radar, right? And Clark owed them a favor, and it really wouldn't have mattered anyway, because Clark looked at Jazz and the rest of the kids, and how scared they were, and he was willing to help, because it's ooh, something must have happened. And it's yeah, right, because it's too aware of how Bruce is anyway. So they're basically, and them two are basically grandparents to the rest of the kids. John babysits them sometimes, even if Dan doesn't really like him. Again, teenager. Dan doesn't really like John. Not that he minds, because John first looked at him, he's like, "Oh my god, it's just like Damien. So like he's not fazed by anything of like any attitude that Dan gives him. Uh Dan, I mean, he still really is Dan, because when they were first talking about how to, Jess was telling him like, you don't have to do this because of us, when they're first moving, and he reassures her because he wants to. This is his decision. Dan just casually says like, let's just burn them. Let's just set them on fire. From what he's like, from what you said, they sound like, they suck. Just set them on fire. Just casual arson, sure. So he's still his, uh, well, no, he still says them on fire. He's still himself. It's fine. But he knew he couldn't really hide forever. Like, I mean, he can't, but like, to them, he just kind of dipped off the radar without really saying anything. And he knew that would like kind of lead to like them searching. They're getting suspicious, right? And so to get them off and make a clear boundary of like, I don't want you to look for me, not that they ever could, but even if they did. So like he knows he has to go back. And so this is like months after the fact. It's almost been like an entire year since he just kind of like, fell off the face of the earth to them. And so this is his last time, like his last ride as Red Hood. Like he's going out and like it's back to Gotham to his family. And he, looks at Dan, like, okay, I'm out, protect them while he's gone. He gets there and obviously, because it's almost been like an entire year. He dropped out Space Earth, like, oh, you're alive, you're back, like, whatever, right? He doesn't even like smile or like play into any banter. Doesn't, just get straight to the point, right? Because he's in his mind, like, as soon as I'm straight to the point, soon as like I can go back home, which is really the first thing he can think of, and even brings it up. It's like he has a place to call home and people to go back to. And so, when he tells him, like, he's like, I'm leaving Gotham, leaving in, Red Hood, leaving it all behind. Of course, they're shocked. Because what do you mean you would, like, abandon, like, you would never do any of that. So what's happening? Like, what about Crime Alley? You're just abandoning it. Till he says, obviously, no. I mean, he did. Like he's not, if it's like emergencies, he'll go back, and that goes like for SM too. But other than that, he's done with the whole thing, right? And he has people looking over Crime Alley, so it's not like it's unprotected anymore, right? But he says like, I'm tired of the fighting, and the months that he just kind of dropped off radar. He has said like, he literally became a farmer. That was his thing. He went from being a crime lord to a farmer. But he was he didn't say that. Didn't want to go into details, but like he, said what, there's no fighting. There's always thinking about the next fight and the next one, right? It's like a moment of like to breathe and just to be there, right? It's like, who knew what this could do for you? And he's not telling like the complete truth of like, being tired of fighting and just kind of wanting to be like, that's the truth, but it's part of it. And Bruce kind of catches on to that fact and that he's not telling the entire truth. So this is where he finally reveals it's like, okay, I have a wife and kids, right? Whole family out there. They're like, I'm sorry, when did this happen? Like, why? And Tim obviously, I mean, Tim had before tried to get information on him, but like he knew how Tim was. Like he doesn't want, he has a wife. He makes a clear boundary. Have wife, kids, but I don't want any of you near them, right? He's like, I don't want any of you near them at all. And obviously they're like hurt and confused because like you don't want us to like meet, your family, like your wife, your kids, like none of that, no contact whatsoever. And he makes it very clear. He's like, because he doesn't want it to consume them. And they really don't have a reply to that because they all just kind of look away because it's like, ooh. Because like being a vigilant is like such a big part of your lives to the point where sometimes it consumes them completely. And Jason doesn't want that for his kids, right? He doesn't want that to be dragged in, especially since he knows how they can, they can all be, to poke and prod at things that really shouldn't to begin with. Bruce almost like tries to like bargain with, in a way, almost, right? Because it's still in his very own way, kind of. But once he, reveals like his wife, his family, he almost tries to like bargain with him of like, because they haven't met there. It's like we'll find them. It's like we can keep them safe. And he's like, absolutely not. Like I don't want you. He's like, you can't find them. I don't want you to. I don't want anything to do with this. And that's where he brings up if this is because of Joker, which is sets everyone on edge. He's like, no. Jason makes it very clear. It's like there's nothing to do with that. It's like not everything has to do with that. You always bring it back to him. It's like he's not the only reason why I'm like this. He's like, you want to know why? Like he says it very bluntly. It's like it's because I don't want them to be consumed by your darkness. Eesh. So, and like even Bruce is like, oh, like he takes a step back, and because and he says like he doesn't regret like picking up the mask, and like none of them do, like saving people, but he doesn't want that to be for his kids, right? Which is but like he doesn't want that. They're not used to any of that, right? Especially kind of there's normal people. They're not used to any of that, and they're definitely not used to how they are as people. Where at least he's self-aware enough to know that like in their family communication terrible. It's just like to the point where it's like you're ignoring boundaries, right? Like he says like they're it's like they're not used to like the whole boundary breaking thing. Like that's not, and then that's not something he wants to subject them to. He wants everything that like they are, like this is far away from them. And I feel like the most emotional I feel like the most emotional line that he said to Bruce in this one is like when he's saying he doesn't want them in his family. He's like he says like I don't want you hurting them, not like you've hurt me. It's time to go home. Jesus. It's time to go home. But he's like clearly establishing very clear like you know he loves him, and he like says much. He's like I love you, like we all do, like you're still my dad at the end of the day. We're family, like, right? And like despite every argument, disagreement, like you're still my dad, the one who took me in, protected me, everything. But they're also his family, and this is where it's like it's not really much of a choice. He's going to choose them, right? Because he looks at it, he's like it's been like for him it's been great not having a fight. He gets like he returns home to people like not like an empty room, right? People there waiting for him. They don't expect really anything of him, and they don't see him as just like, oh, the angry one or the one who died. They see him as just Jason, and that's enough for them. He doesn't really need to be anything else other than just Jason. And he like ends it with where he ends it with it's like you don't want me here just like because especially when he's like want to control me, right? Because it's like he's kind of gone off the rails, but not really, not in a long time. He's like I've done like I'm not the same. It's like I'm not the same man who came from the grave and like just started killing people left and right. He's like, but I'm also not the boy who died in that warehouse. He's been dead for a long time. You never moved on from me. It's like my death. It's like Jesus. My death was like worse than your parents. Like, did you worse than your parents? Like, you treat other people like garbage because of it. It's like you look at me and you still see that kid, and that's not me anymore. It's like it has been for a long time. So, but he's like, I don't want any of you to try and find like, and he does end up with threats, kind of. I mean, it's more of a promise than a threat. Where he's like, I don't even want you to try and find us. If you do, I'll get both the Justice League and the League of Assassins involved. Talia still owes me a favor. Everyone just owes him a favor in this. What is happening? Like, but he's like, Talia still owes me a favor. for which, okay, makes sense. Okay, he watched over Damien, so sure. Talia still his favorite for that. So, but he just wants to basically, like, it's like him will disappear and you'll never find us again. So he really does go for the don't even try it. Like we will, I will call everyone, sick all of them, which makes, because again, Clark's already in on it. He already knows that they're there. He took one look at them, was like, yeah, all right, I'll help you. Not a word to Bruce. John hasn't even said anything. Like, he's good. I think he's got plenty of people in his pockets, even if they don't really, even if they aren't really like Clark, where it's like, yeah, I'll help you because clearly you need it, and more just like, damn, I owe you a favor. Like, it's still all these people on his side. But he does tell Bruce, obviously, like, that he loves him, but he loves his family too much to let them, like, be hurt because of him. And he does end up, because they'll never meet, right? He does give them a photo of him and the rest of the kids and Jazz together, because they'll never meet. And this is like the least that, like, he'll give them, right? And he says, he says, like, you've buried children. It's like, I won't let you bury mine. Jeez. It's like hit after hit. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like, um, Tim starts asking, like, what if questions, like, oh, what if you need help? Like, what if this? Or, like, just to stall him, like, get him to, like, rethink it, right? But Steph is immediately, like, she's on his side, right? Stephanie, like, she interrupts, like, just let him go, right? It's like he's building something new and beautiful for himself, right? And instead of going out and fighting crime and, like, killing himself every day, right? That's better than what a lot of them could say for themselves. He's found something, and it's clearly, like, it's doing great for him. And he, wants to keep that, and it sucks that they can't meet, they're like his kids or Jazz. But they have to respect that, right? Dick does ask, like, oh, could they ever meet them eventually? It's like, and Jason, the most he could promise him is, photos, like the one kind of laid on the table. The most he could ever promise is photos, and that's it. But he does say, like, maybe one day in the future, because he's not, it's like maybe one day if, Gotham's like, when he's sure that it's safe for them, when sure that he's like, Gotham won't chew them up and spit them out, right? When they won't be broken down. But, with that, they all kind of accept, like, this is Jason's choice. Like, this is what he's doing, and, like, they have to respect that, right? All of them come around to accept, Bruce. Everyone to, like, keep, and, like, really to keep the family together, right? Instead of, because, that's why he offered in the first place, to bring them there, keep them safe, but he didn't want that for them, right? So, in, like, he says, as, like, Jason goes to, like, walk away, because we're done now, everything's need to be said, right? And in desperate attempt, he does it. Like, if you walk out the door, you're no son of mine, which he doesn't mean. At this point, he's just like, he's desperate. He's grasping at straws, anything to get him to turn around, to stay, to say, like, oh, you know what, you're right. I do think, just anything for him to change his mind, which doesn't work, because he continues on anyway, because he wants to go back home. He wants to get back to his family. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!